So taking a turn here, I kind of wanted to talk about like some of your older work and how your sound has maybe evolved over time. Now, me personally, I don't know which one came first, but I think the first two music projects that I know of yours was Star Candy and also Oodles of Noodles. Star Candy being your solo project, and Oodles and Noodles was a band you were in probably 2007-ish, I think.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how your sound kind of like what inspired you back then to start making music and kind of like your journey up until this point.
So I've always done kind of like music stuff, and as far as like when I started performing and doing things like that, it was first off with the experimental instrumental metal band Oodles and Noodles, and that was around 2007, 2008. I was very interested in doing electronic music as well, and I had gotten a copy of Fruity Loops when it was still called that.
FL Studio.
Yeah, and so I had started like a little project called Star Candy, but it was really just me messing around with a bunch of stuff I didn't really know what I was doing. But I was primarily focused on the band. I was doing at first bass, guitar, and keyboards. I had a little synthesizer I would bring, and then, like a drummer quit, so I just moved over to drums, and it was just me and a guitarist, and then we got another drummer. I ended up doing a couple different things, but after that, it kind of faded out. I would join maybe a couple other bands and play mainly live music. But
I'm going to step in real quick because I remember one of the things you added an electronic element to that band. Yeah. I remember it was mostly like garage instrumental, kind of like wild ass, teenage metal, I'll call it. But it was still pretty progressive, I think, especially for the area. But there was definitely a time where you had like a keyboard setup or a synth or something, and you were adding an electronic element to it. And I feel like that's probably more in line with your other project at the time, which was Star Candy. It was kind of like that's when I started adding like synth effects and trying to make like little electronic tracks that we could also play along to and stuff like that. And then that's when I named it Star Candy. And I would just make random tracks every once in a while underneath that until about 2010. And then I heard like Washed Out and Toro y Moi and all of them. And Washed Out really changed how I looked at production. So I was kind of like going more towards that direction and like vaporwave, chillwave kind of stuff. But I was still in the band as well. But I would typically get a lot of enjoyment out of making, like chill electronic stuff. So at that point, around 2010, I started going more towards that. I see. And at that time, were you also kind of like making all your own synths and designing your own sounds and everything?
Yeah, that's always what I've liked to do. I always like to tinker around with everything.
So would you consider yourself, like, there's a lot of coined terms you can kind of call yourself as a musician nowadays. Would you consider yourself more of a music producer, sound engineer, or just like a DJ? Where do you I mean, obviously it's all of these things, but what's your name?
I mean, at this time, I'm mainly just doing production, but I would say I'm more of a musician than anything. I just like doing music. So anything involving music is going to, whether it's the engineering, the design, or melodies, writing, I just like to do it all. So I just consider myself a musician.